Welcome back to WaterparkRanger's Let's Play Pikmin 2! Last episode, we finished the Frontier Cavern, and then began day 11, by growing some more Pikmin, and I'm just flowering them. It's very useful up here because you've got a few eggs at the top, so that's good for nectar. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll get sprays, if you've been going after sprays. It's kind of interesting how it's programmed so you'll never run into a spray dose if you don't harvest the berries. They could have done without that, but I guess it would have taken away some of the impact of, like, wow, now you can get sprays without really worrying about, harvesting the berries. Like, harvesting the berries is pretty fun, but at the same time, because the sprays are just so overpowered, in my opinion, I haven't been using them for this run. This is basically just the run of not using overpowered things. Which is... sorry, purples. I mean, I like the purples. I'm gonna admit, purple is a cool color, so... purples get cred for that. Actually, in the beta version of the game... don't get me wrong, but I think the purples looked a little bit cooler. In the beta version, they actually didn't have those little hairs on their head. They're hard to notice, but actually they do look kind of cooler. Just as like fat Pikmin, and that's it. And of course the fiery Bullblax, not Bullman. Fiery Bullblax just spawns over there like a jerk, day after day after day, even after you beat him. Like the Toady Bloister, because he had a treasure, he keeps coming back. And here, that's kind of like the perplexing pool, how you throw the yellows up and they gravitate towards stuff. Because they just fall down the slope. To pick up that, fossilized statue of a bear with a fish in its... No, not fossilized, no, like a chiseled statue of a bear with a fish in its mouth. Kind of a random treasure to have. I feel like some of that stuff, and I bet this is totally true, was just taken off, like... was just inspired from whatever the development team happened to have on their, like, cluttered desks at the time. Because that really adds, like, an extra element of realism. Now this jerk up here, really horrible enemy placement, I hate it. But fortunately, I was awesome, and swarmed it and killed it in a single go. As you know, Armored Cannon Beetle larvae just have so much stupid HP when they're put in the ground like that. And they can't really even be stunned by purples because they have a connection to the ground, which doesn't make too much sense because you'd think a direct hit on the ground would be like a direct hit to their nerves. And I've also encountered a notorious glitch here, which is basically... the crown being hard as hell to get off the head of the Snowman. So it's going to take us a long time to get that crown to fall off, so... I guess I'm going to skip ahead, kind of like I did... Wait, no, I didn't skip ahead. I'll skip ahead here anyway, it's going to take a while. Alright, yes! There we go! If you really feel inclined to, you can check the day timer now and compare it to right before that treasure was analyzed by our ship. This took about... getting that stupid crown off the top of the Snowman took about the passage between 1 and 2 drops on our dial. Yeah, that was too long for me, but believe it or not, I've had it take longer. That's a commonly encountered glitch, and that's just because of how poorly made that surface is. Don't get me wrong, I think it's cool that they have a snowman and stuff, but if it makes it, like, hard to play the game for, like, really bad reasons, for stupid glitches that are very frustrating, then it's probably not worth putting in. That's my opinion. That's a really annoying glitch, I'm not gonna lie. Like, some glitches make the game better. Some glitches, like, especially underground, make stuff more entertaining, like glitches with the water wraith, for example. And perfect! Even with our Mega Tweeter, that Pikmin was just so slow and stupid that he went and left our party just out of range of the whistle. Well, now you're not coming along with the dungeon to us, buddy. Thanks to you, we're probably not gonna drop by and whistle you. Before we go into the final dungeon into this area. So maybe I should start thinking about what party I should put together. I know that for the dungeon, this area, there's really no reason to bring blues in there, at least on your first run. I know it sounds crazy, but let me explain. Basically, you're gonna do a couple of runs of this dungeon because you do need 100 purple Pikmin by the time you visit the last area if you're hoping to get all the treasures. There is a treasure, believe it or not, that takes 100 purple Pikmin to lift. And this next dungeon that we're going to go into is actually the best dungeon for getting purples and whites in the game. So our first run through it is going to be normal. I'm going to take another run through it, like, off-screen, to get more purples and whites from it. And maybe to also increase the population, because there are more Queen Candy Pop Buds inside there. No, that's not true. There are also a lot of Queen Candy Pop Buds in other dungeons. But because there's all these Candy Pop Buds in the same dungeon, it's just generally a nice place for getting more purple and whites and getting a few more Pikmin while you're at it. And from that description, it almost makes it sound like it's going to be smooth sailing. No! This is the most dangerous dungeon we'll have done yet. I think it's probably worth saying, it's worth giving it, I think, a 4-star rating. And I think the people who made the game knew that too, because it also I'm pretty sure has the highest Poco value, like combining all the treasures together. It has the highest Poco value of all the dungeons we'll have been in by this point. And I think this is a good setup. There's really no water hazards or water of any kind in there, so blues, no point in bringing them along. Yeah, let's use that last bit of nectar just so we don't have these slow people. I know that by the time you get to the boss, you definitely want a full group of flowers, but that's not really a problem because there's a rest stop right before the final floor. This dungeon also will have 9 floors, so it's longer than a frontier cavern, but because 2 of them are rest floors, technically, I guess it makes it not too different from the frontier cavern. I do know that in my first run of the game, I feel like it took me a long time. That dungeon, this dungeon we're going to go into, I remember it taking me a long time to finish, like the first time I went through the game. It felt really long. It felt like longer than an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I know it's definitely not going to run that long for this video, but we could be seeing something that gets like around the 40-minute mark. Like, most dungeons so far are around half an hour. This one might be more the 40-minute mark. That sounds about right. I guess only time will tell. Oh my god, was that a pun? Damn, I didn't intend that, but I guess that could be viewed as a pun. My family has too many puns, so I get used to that. Interesting, my metal detectors are reacting violently. I can only conclude that there may be some sort of machine below, but that seems illogical. Oh shit, I just thought of something awesome. Because the time, like, the time waves down there are distorted or whatever, maybe you're detecting yourself once you go in there. Wouldn't that be cool? That could actually be kind of cool, because, like, that would... They have some kind of weird explanation, like, time does not pass the same way underground than it does on the surface due to, like, waves of science that stop time, or something complicated like that. I don't know, I'm not a physics for life student, so I wouldn't know how that works. So I'll just take an educated guess and say that that doesn't ever work in real life. But then again, you know, the universe is a vast place. There could be some place out there where time simply doesn't work. You never know. Anyway, here we are in the subterranean complex. Right now it doesn't seem too different from Frontier Cavern. But the theme of this dungeon is different than just another snow dungeon like the Frontier Cavern was. This one is the official rusty metal dungeon of the game. It starts off with snow, which I think is kind of a cool touch. Once again, the first floor of the underground being not too different from the surface. That kind of is a running theme with some of the dungeons in this game. Particularly the ones in the Valley of Repose. So there's, once again, the level of detail I like. It's got more hairy bulbworms in there, so, once again, aesthetic awesomeness. Those bulbworms actually look like they should be in a snowy place, and they are, so kudos Nintendo. At least you got that right. Talking about enemy locations, obviously they got a lot right with this game. The first time you play through it, there will be no complaints about the difficulty either, even though you're using sprays and stuff, and even using purples, like, it just feels very balanced. But once you get good at the game and you know what to expect, like, it just feels kind of like an easy game for the most part. So that's why I wanted to make this playthrough more fun for me, and once again, I think it's actually more fun for viewers if they don't always know if I'm going to succeed. Because, believe it or not, I'm feeling kind of antsy about the last few dungeons of the game. Like, normally, even with tougher dungeons like this, even though I could potentially face a huge Pikmin loss, at least I know that I'm ultimately going to succeed. But for the last dungeon of this game, and maybe the one that comes before it, there's this foreboding feeling I have that I might actually fail in the dungeon and then maybe have to do the dungeon over again. I don't know how I feel about that, but it could happen. Because I promised myself I wouldn't reset as part of the challenge, and I've followed that so far. Except for once, technically, you didn't see this, but when I started Bulblack's Kingdom, I did have to stop recording just because... complications at the moment. And so I wasn't able to finish it. And I just started 4-1, and I think I had some losses to an orange bulborb. But ultimately, I did lose Pikmin to an orange bulborb there, so I guess it was about equal. So maybe I lost 5 more Pikmin than you've seen in this run, so that's the only difference, really. It's a really finicky small difference, so you shouldn't care. I don't see why I should care. I don't really care. Anyway, as you can see, this floor is just rotten with bumbling snitch bugs. Kind of like that floor in the Frontier Cavern, like floor 4, that has a lot of bumbling snitch bugs also. No! No! Ninja Snow Bulborb, you will not have your way. We ninja you. We'll continue deeper through this dungeon next episode. See you then.